Quadratic equations have the form like ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, that kind of a form, you can't see the whole thing, but that kind of a form is what we're going to learn to solve today. And we're going to learn to solve it using a formula that works for every single quadratic. Because remember what we've done before is we've taken out and like put them in factors. Okay, we've solved equations like this, right, where it was like 4x squared plus 2x equals 0. How do we solve that kind of equation?
First, we would
Factor out what? Factor out an x, right? So this would be x and 4x plus 2 equals 0. So the solutions for this would be what?
X equals 0.
X equals 0.
Oh yeah, duh, that's what I mean.
And
X equals 2.
it's not 2, okay? But the solution, wow, you guys should be listening. The other solution for this would be solving 4x plus 2 equals 0. How do we solve that equation?
Odd negatives both sides.
So yeah, subtract 2. So you get 4x equals negative 2. And then what? Divided by 4. What's 2 divided by 4?
It's a 1 over 2.
It's negative
Negative 1 over 2.
Negative 1/2. Okay, so the two solutions for this one would be x equals 0 and x equals negative 1/2, right? Okay, and we've also done some that were like, no, this is review. We've also done some that we had to do x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0, right? And when we got these kind of equations, what do we do?
Factor out an X first.
Can't factor out an x. The 5 does not have an x in it.
Subtract.
Nope, not subtract. What do we do when all three terms are present? What do we try and do?
Find the.
What do we try and do? This is something.
The X to one side.
Nope. That's if there's only an x squared term. What do we try and do if all three terms are present?
Solve the problem.
That's the goal. Remember, when we have something like this, we try and factor if we can.
Wait, X plus.
No, that's what I said.
I mean, X on the outside plus. No.
Okay? So what would this be if we try and factor this? What would it be?
X plus 6x and X plus 5.
No.
X
plus
plus
X.
3.
Remember,
Where'd you get 3?
gentlemen, quiet please. Remember, it has to multiply to make 5 and add to make 6, right? So this would be x and x. And what would the two numbers be?
1 plus 5.
1 and 5 plus. So what would my solutions be for this?
Where'd you get 1
Negative 5,
from?
negative 1.
Negative 5 and negative 1. X equals negative 1 and x equals negative 5. Where did I get what from?
Yeah.
Where did I get the 1? Well, what multiplies to make 5?
Oh, 1 and 5.
Remember, it has to multiply to make 5 and add to make 6.
I forgot
Right?
about that.
Okay? So if we can factor these, we factor them. But what if we can't factor them? What if I gave you something like x squared plus 4x plus 5 equals 0? All I did was change one number. You have it. Pay attention, please. All I did was change one number. Okay? But I can't factor that. Okay? Here's where the quadratic formula comes in handy. So write down that equation. This is where you guys need to start writing. Okay? So the quadratic formula looks like this. Okay? Come on. You need to be writing this down. Quadratic formula looks like this. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, that whole thing, divided by 2a. Okay? This is called the quadratic formula. Okay? Now let's talk about what this means. What number in that equation do you think is represented by the b? Yeah.
Second number.
The second number. Well, I don't want you to get in the habit of saying it's always the second number because they could be out of order. But in this case, it is the second number. The b is always the number that's next to the x. So that's the b. It would be 4. What would the a be?
X squared.
It's not x squared, but it's the number next to the x squared. What number is next to x squared? 1. So a is right here. A is the number next to the x squared. And then so that leaves C to be what? 5. Okay? So C is the 5. So what you would do is, you would say that, okay, I know that A is equal to 1, I know that B is equal to 4, and I know that C is equal to 5. And all you do is replace those into the equation. So it would be as simple as this. You would say, we go negative B, which is 4, okay, plus or minus the square root of B squared, which is 4, 4 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 5, all that divided by 2 times A, which is 1. Okay? So you replace the B with whatever this number is next to the x. Okay? You replace the A with whichever number is next to the x squared. And the C with whichever number is out here by itself. And all you do is replace them in here. Okay?
Hey, that's a lot of steps.
Not really. Okay? And then you just simplify. So now if we took that, what's...
That's not a lot. What is a lot?
That's really not. Okay? What would this be? 4 times 1 times 5. What would that be? What's 4 times 1?
20.
Times 5, 20, right? Okay? So we would have 4 squared is what? We have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 20. That's 4 times 1 times 5, right? All divided by what? 2. Okay? I chose a bad example because this is not going to work. But you see the point. Okay? It's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 over 2. Okay? This is a good
I
lesson.
thought you said 20 divided by 2. That's 10.
No, the 2 divides into everything. Everything. It doesn't divide. You don't use the 2 at the end until the very, very end. Okay? Now, in this example, everybody notice this. What number is inside the radical?
4.
Not just a 4.
Negative 4.
If you ever get this, it is not possible.
So if you
ever get a negative inside of the radical, this has no solution. Automatically. Because we can't take square roots of negative numbers. Okay? Let's do a problem that has a solution. Okay? I just made that one up. That wasn't a very good one. Okay, let's try this one. We have x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. Now here's the important thing. Here's the important thing. This should always be equal to 0. Guys, this should always be equal to 0 when you're doing the quadratic formula. Okay? So, somebody tell me, what's my A? What's A in this problem? 1. A is equal to 1. What's B? Not 6. Negative 6 because there's a minus sign in front of it. So B is equal to negative 6. What's C? 9. C is 9. So then we take the equation. Negative B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC. That whole thing divided by 2 times A. Okay? And then we plug in. Okay, plug in. So we put in a negative 6 in for B. So you're going to be negative, and then you put in the negative 6. Plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times what's A? Times A, which is 1. Times C, which is, what's C? 9? Running off the screen here. Okay? And then that whole thing's divided by what? 2 times 1, right? 2 times 1. Okay? So then you simplify this. So what is, this is negative 6. What would that make? What's negative times negative? Positive. So we would get 6 Okay? Plus or minus the square root. What's negative 6 squared? 36. 36 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 9 is what? Do you have it? Pay attention, please.
I'm trying to find a pen so I can write it down.
Sorry, pay attention still.
36.
36 minus 36 all over 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? What's 36 minus 36? 0. So we would have 6 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2. What's the square root of 0? 0. So we can kind of ignore it. And so then we would have 6 over 2. What's 6 divided by 2? 3. That's our answer. It's 3. Okay?
So,
That's it. We're done. Okay? Let's try another one. Next one. 10x squared plus 6x minus 4 equals 0. Okay? What's my A? D Heaven, what's my A?
What?
What's my A?
10.
10. A is equal to 10. What's B?
You asking me?
Yep.
6x.
Not 6x.
6.
Just 6. B is equal to 6. What's C? Not 4.
Negative.
Negative 4. C is equal to negative 4. Okay? So now we go to the equation. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's one you guys need to remember and memorize. Okay? So we put in our numbers. Be negative b. What's b?
How did you get negative b?
That's just the equation. It's just always negative b. Yeah, you bring up a good point. This is always negative b. This is always a minus 4, and always a 2 here. Okay? The only thing that changes are the a, b, and c. Okay? So what's b?
6.
6. So we're going to have a negative 6. So I replace the b with 6. All right? Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 6. 6 squared minus 4. Gentlemen, times 10 times a negative 4. All over 2 times 10. Okay? So what's 6 squared? 36. So we take this, we would get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36. And then what's 4 times 10?
40.
Times 4. Times negative 4, really.
What?
What's 4? 4 times 10 is 40. Times 4. Close. 160. Negative and negative would make it positive. So we'd have 36 plus 160 in the square root. All divided by what? 20. Okay? Now this one's a different one than we've done before. So now we do this. It's negative 6 plus or minus. Add those two together. 36 plus 60 is 196 divided by 20. The square root of 196, I think it's 16, but let me check. That's 14, I was wrong. 14, okay? So we get negative 6 plus or minus 14 over 20. Okay, now notice this. This is where it gets a little different, okay? We're going to have two answers here. One of the answers is going to be negative 6 plus 14. So what's negative 6 plus 14?
Negative. Maybe positive. I don't know. Positive 10.
Positive 8. Negative 6 plus 14 is 8. So one of the answers is 8 over 20. Okay? And then the other one, negative 6 minus 14. What's negative 6 minus 14? Negative 20. The other answer is negative 20 over 20. Okay? Does that make sense?
No.
Let's try one more. You guys try it on your own here. Ready? Okay. Let's say we had this. Negative 2x squared minus 8x minus 8 equals 0. You guys do that one. See if you can solve that using the quadratic formula. Okay? If you haven't, if those are yours, make sure they get picked up.
Yeah, that's shades.
Everybody try this with the quadratic formula. What is what up there? Right here? Negative 2? Right here? The square? Negative 2x squared? Everybody should be trying this. If you need calculators, come up and grab them.
How I got D?
On conduct? How many times just today did I have to tell you to be quiet? Too many.
You didn't tell me to be quiet.
Oh. Yes. That just shows you how much you're not paying attention. Okay, so for this problem, what would A be? What do you think? What would it be? Yeah, A is equal to negative 2. What's B? B is negative 8. And what's C? C is negative 8. Okay? So then we go to our quadratic formula. I'm not going to write on here to save room. So it'd be negative, okay, negative B. So it'd be negative, negative 8. Right? Okay? Hold on a second. We put that in here. Okay, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared, because it's B squared, which is negative 8, minus 4 times A, what's A? Negative 2, times C, which is what? Negative 8. All that divided by 2 times what? Negative 2. Okay? So we take all those letters and replace them with numbers. All right? What's negative negative? Positive 8. So it should be 8. Plus or minus the square root. What's negative 8 squared? 64. Okay? Now we got 4. 4 times 2, just ignore the signs for right now. 4 times 2 is? 8 times 8 is? 64. Negative, positive, negative. It should be minus 64. All that divided by what? Negative 4. You're obviously not looking at the board. Negative 4. Okay? So now this one ends up being pretty easy. What's 64 minus 64? 0. So we end up with 8 over negative 4. What's 8 divided by negative 4? Not 2. Negative 2. There's your answer. Okay? Alright? You guys want to try another one? See if we can do this one together? Let's try one more. I'll do one from your work today. Okay? Let's do this one. Let's do this is letter C. So it's x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Actually, no, before you guys start that, what if I did this? Let me erase this end part over here. What if I had a problem that started like this? Plus 12 equals 2. What would you do here? Would you do it the exact same way?
No.
What would you do?
Move the x squared to the other side.
Not the x squared. What would you do?
Try to get the right side equals 0.
Yeah, this right side's got to be equal to 0. So this 2's got to be moved over here. Subtract 2. Yeah. So in this problem, we would start out by subtracting 2. Okay? And so you'd end up with x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. It has to be equal to 0. Has to be. It won't work otherwise. Okay? You guys try and see if you can find it using quadratic formula. So you can find the answers for that. Okay, you guys done? Need a little more time? Okay. Okay, so it sounds like most of you guys are done. So what's A in this problem? A is equal to 1. What's B? Not 7. Negative 7. And what's C? C is 10. Gentlemen, be quiet please. C is 10. So now we go to the equation. You're going to be negative B, so it's negative negative 7, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. Okay? Negative 7 makes positive 7. So it'd be 7 plus or minus the square root. What's negative 7 squared? 49. What's 4 times 1 times 10? Minus 40. All that divided by 2. It's negative 7. Okay? What's 49 minus 40? 9. So we would end up with 7 plus or minus the square root of 9 divided by 2. What's the square root of 9? 3. So this would equal 7 plus or minus 3 over 2. So now here's where you need to take your two answers. One of the answers is 7 plus 3. What's 7 plus 3? 10. So one of the answers is 10 over 2. 10 over 2 equals what? 5. The other answer is 7 minus 3. What's 7 minus 3?
4.
4 divided by 2 is? 2. So your answers are 5 and 2. Okay? Questions? Okay, let's try one more, then I'm going to let you guys go. One more. Let's say we had this. What's the problem with this problem? What about the x squared? It's like in the wrong place, right? Okay, but we can rewrite this, okay, using the signs that they give us. So I would rewrite this like this. X squared minus 6x plus 13 equals 0. You don't have to. But the problem is in the top one, what's your A? Still 1, right? What I would get is I would get a lot of students confused and they would think that the 13 is A because it's first. Okay? But if you see it, yeah, I don't ever rewrite them. But if you need to rewrite them, okay? Find the answer to this using quadratic formula.
So that x, that would be a 1?
On the x squared?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys have a quiz over this stuff and the other solving Thursday or Friday this week.
Oh, but everybody that's in U.S. history doesn't, we're not going to be here on Thursday.
Is it Thursday or Friday? It might be Friday. I haven't determined what day. Is every sophomore class taking a?
Yeah, it's everybody that has U.S. history.
Wasn't that every sophomore?
Yeah, but some sophomores have got higher and then lower. So I have to tell them.
Well, maybe we'll just do it Friday just to make sure. I won't be here Thursday. I have another. All right. It's good. Okay, so let's go through this. So in this problem, what's our A? A is equal to 1. Hold on, I got lots of side conversations. B is equal to, not 6, negative 6. And C is equal to 13. There's no 10 up there. 13. Okay? So then we would go negative B should be at negative 6 plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. Okay? So negative 6 make positive 6 plus or minus the square root. Negative 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 is 4 times 13. 52? Should be minus 52. All over 2. Now notice something. Every one of you in this room should be able to notice this. 36 minus 52, is that going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
You can stop right there and you say no solution. Because that's going to be a negative number. Okay? You don't need to do anything else. So you would just put off to the side. You just say no solution. Okay? So you'll be done. Okay? You guys okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys go and try some. You're going to have 20 minutes to do these problems. I've already done some of them for you. And at 12:10, what time we get here actually? Okay, so not quite that long. At 12:05 or so, you're going to do an exit slip. Okay? Well, let me tell you kind of what it's about. Okay? When we're doing the quadratic formula, when's the only time we do the quadratic formula? When we can't do what? When we can't factor easily. If you don't see factors right away, do this. Because this works for everything. As long as it's set equal to 0. But if you see a factor, like a problem, you know, like, I'm sorry, if you had x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Can you factor that? What would the factors be?
X plus 2.
X plus 2, x plus 1. Okay? So, and the answers for this one would be negative 2 and negative 1. You would get the same answer with the quadratic formula, but it would take you a whole lot longer, right? Okay? So if you can see the factors, you factor it. But if you can't, quadratic formula works for everything, as long as it's set equal to 0.
So
Okay?
you're saying if we can find the factors before, we have to go to the quadratic side?
Yeah, if you don't see the factors right away, unless it explicitly says solve this by factoring, if it just says solve and you don't see the factors right away, use the quadratic formula. Don't waste time, okay? Because the quadratic formula will work for everything. Okay? All right, here's your problem. If I can find the. Here it is. And this is on page 343 of your book. It's number 6. Okay? And notice, I think I've done this one. And I think I did this one. And I think I did this one. Okay? So you guys really have 5 problems to do. Alright? But all these solve with quadratic formula. Even if you can't factor, just to get practice. Okay? So about 15 minutes to get those 5 done. No. You're saving it for tomorrow.
Are we trying to send tomorrow?
With the stuff we do tomorrow, probably, yeah. We're doing some more practice problems tomorrow.
¿Dónde?
Hey. That would be a good idea. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't know anything. So as long as you feel anything, if you need help, just ask me. Quadratic formula on all these. Okay? That's the biggest thing. Okay? Because if you take like if you have that problem right there, 5x squared plus, what is it, 3x minus 2? Okay. How do they equal to 0? What's a in this problem? Always a number in front of the x squared, so you have 5. A equals 5, what's b? Okay. B is equal to 3, b is always number 1 in front of the x. What's c? Right. If you can get that, that's the hardest part of this. Because then you take the equation. Negative b plus 1 is squared b squared minus 4ac. And all you do is replace every b with negative 3 plus or minus square root. This would be 3 squared minus that 4 is always there. Replace this a with 5. Replace this c with negative 2. Replace this a with 5. So that 2 is always there. Okay, and then it's just a matter of multiplying. It could be negative 3 plus or minus the square root. 3 squared is what does the square mean? It means 3 times itself. That's what that means. 3 squared means 3 times itself. So what's 3 times 3? 9. 4 times 5 times 2. 40. And then you have a negative and a negative. Makes 8. All over.
Okay, tomorrow, like, you was only the very easy to
Okay. And then 9 plus 40. Okay. And then you look and say, what's the score of 49? If you don't know, you use a calculator, but that's 7. Okay. So it's negative 3 plus or minus 7 over 10. And then you have two answers. One of them is negative 3 plus 7, which would be what? Well, no, negative 3. You owe me $3. You gave me $7. You owe me $3. Negative. And you gave me $7.
forgot my stuff.
You give me enough, or did you give me too much?
Well, I got my box.
How much?
And so it's in the photography room for that.
4. It would be 4 over 10. That's one of the answers. The other answer is negative 3 minus 7. You owed me 3. You borrowed 7 for it. So the other answer is, that's it. So these are your answers. That's number 1. That's
That's
not
I
number
don't
1.
get it. It's how you got 9 plus 40 when you're supposed to
Well, because 3 squared is 9. 4 times 5 is 20. Times 2 is 40. Negative and negative. Okay? Alright? Make sense? So the biggest thing is to get this. Once you get this, you just love it. You can. I get bad habits when I don't. But you can. When it's negative, I would. That way you remember it's negative and a negative. Okay? Because the biggest mistake comes in, students will put, instead of putting a negative and a negative, they just put one negative. And it's positive. Like if B would have been, instead of it being 3, it would have been a minus 3, and that's number right here would have been positive.
I need to get a pen. They got like, just wait.
Ooh, I go fast?
Yeah.
I try and go, that's actually really slow, but I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things where you get used to it. And you does get that.
Yeah. And then when I be doing, I'm like, all slow. Like,
That's the way it is. I mean, that's until you learn. Square root, minus 4 times A times C. Yep, over 10. Boy, that is loud. Yeah, I can hear all of it. Yep, but now look, hold on. Negative 4. So 4 times 1 is 4 times 6 is 24. But negative and negative, that should be plus. Okay? Be careful with your signs on these guys.
Yeah.